He is as constant as the Northern Star, and his unique mix of determination and serenity in the face of some of the worst beasts of the so-called mainstream media, the man who's faced them all and bested them, is Professor Seyed Marandi, and he joins me now, not in the studio, but in Moscow. So we were together just, I think, last evening, Professor. So good to see you again. But this is a very auspicious day in your country. Tell us about that.
Thank you very much for having me, George. It's a great pleasure and a great honor being on your show. And I had the privilege of being with you, your wife, and your son last night. It was a great pleasure meeting them as well. Yes, today is an important day. It was the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. I really love this city. Moscow is beautiful, but today I really wanted to be in Tehran. And the crowds were extraordinary. There were millions of people on the streets of Tehran, 4 million according to estimates, and tens of millions of people on the streets across the country. I posted some of the footage on my Twitter account, and it shows very clearly where ordinary Iranians stand. And that is exactly why Western media, Western pundits, Western so-called Iran experts will not cover the rallies today across the country, because it runs against their fake narratives on the country, that it is the so-called regime is falling apart and the people hate the regime and it's collapsing. These are just narratives that they use in order to justify aggression. Western media is controlled by the Epstein class. It's controlled by the Zionists. It doesn't matter if it's so-called left or right. The mainstream media is controlled by these people, and the narrative on Iran is clear as day. But those who want to seek the truth, all they have to do is look at the images of Tehran. After 47 years of war, sanctions, terrorism, and the difficulties that life has. I mean, if you ask those people on the streets of Tehran today, is life good? Is the economy doing well? I'm pretty sure 70, 80% of them would say, no, it's difficult. But despite all that, and despite the West imposing all this hardship, they come to the streets and defend in defense of the revolution, in defense of the Palestinian people, and in opposition to the regime in Washington. And I think I was very.
It is quite brazen, Professor. I mean, it's more than lying by omission. It's brazen falsification to not report to the viewers and readers that they have been telling for weeks, months, years, decades, that the Islamic Revolution was hated by the people of Iran. My best estimate from all the sources that I've read is that between 23 and 26 million people were demonstrating for the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. Now, for Western media to not report that is brazen falsification.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when they were claiming that first 10,000, then 20,000, then 50,000, then 80,000 people were just being gunned down on the streets of Tehran, even though there was no internet and they had no names and no information. So they were more than willing to lie about numbers, when in fact it was Israeli intelligence and Western intelligence agencies that carried out those atrocities. They boasted about it. Western media pretended that these intelligence agencies were silent. The footage was out there. They didn't show it. They just pretended that these were peaceful protesters. And the reason for all that is to demonize Iran. The reason for that was to create the grounds for invasion, for aggression, for murder and death and destruction. And what the people in Iran did today was say, no, we support the Islamic Republic of Iran, and don't start killing us in the name of saving us. And that's exactly why they don't want to show it, because it rejects the whole premise of the argument. what the West is saying is that we have to destroy Iran to save Iran. And the Iranians are saying, thank you very much. We're fine where we are and leave us alone.
It is, of course, a moot point, but Donald Trump, it seems to me, and Chris Hedges had the same view just a few minutes ago on here. Donald Trump does not actually want to go to war with Iran, not the least because of the consequences for his very generous friends in the Arab countries in the Gulf. After all, who's going to shell out the gold and diamonds and pearls to him and his son-in-law on subsequent visits to the region if all these regimes have been swept away? So Chris and I both believe that Trump is not signed up to use the hardware that he has so expensively dragged all the way to the Persian Gulf, and that's why Netanyahu is in the Oval Office right now trying to strong-arm him, either by compromat or by other means. What's your take on that, Professor?
I think that's absolutely correct. I think that the military officers and the generals and those in the know would tell Trump that, look, if there is war, the Iranians will destroy the oil and gas facilities, the ships, the tankers. They'll shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And these tiny family dictatorships, which host U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf, they will not survive. You have Qatar where the regime has 350 to 400,000 passport holders and millions of foreign workers, mostly adult males. The Emirates has 1.4 million passport holders and 10 million foreign workers, many indentured servants and workers and semi-slaves, and mostly adult males. If these regimes become unstable, it's clear what will happen. So Kushner and the Trump family, they are making enormous profits from the Persian Gulf region, from whether it's Qatar or the Emirates or Bahrain. They're making huge amounts of money. And if these regimes are swept away, then that money's gone. But also, if Iran shuts down the oil and gas trade, then the price of energy will go through the roof. And that will bring down economies across the world. And it will be Trump that people blame. And I don't believe at all for a second that Trump can mobilize public support for any war against Iran. Those days are gone when you had to go to the U.S. Senate and stand up to senators to expose them for their fake excuses to attack Iraq. Now people don't trust the regime in Washington. The Epstein files, which every day we're seeing new bits and pieces that discuss this more and more, Americans are seeing it too. Everyone knows what the reality of the political class in the United States is. So I don't think at all that Trump can persuade Americans to back him for war. And as soon as things go south, people in the United States will blame him for it. So I think that both because of his own selfish interests in the Persian Gulf region, and also because of the fears of what would happen to the economy, he definitely does not want war. But we were negotiating with this guy months ago. Between the fifth round and the sixth round of negotiations, he was conspiring with his close buddy Netanyahu to attack Iran. So Iran is going to be very wary. It is not going to be deceived. The armed forces are preparing for the worst. But I do believe that you're absolutely correct. He is personally not interested in war.
Now, you mentioned the Epstein files, and you were, of course, formerly a professor of American studies, now English literature and Orientalism at the University of Tehran. You have I think, unparalleled in all the Iranians I've ever met, an unparalleled knowledge of and interest in Western societies, whilst being a man of the East, descendant of the Prophet, pious religious man from a historic family, and so on. You are actually the perfect bridge between the peoples, at least, of West and East. So let me ask you what you think of the Epstein files and how they relate in particular to your part of the world. I shouldn't be surprised, but it did surprise me that the UAE's first woman diplomat in New York was, how shall I put it, intimately connected to Jeffrey Epstein, and moreover, was keen to introduce her sister, who's even more pretty than me, she said, although only 14. I shouldn't be surprised, but actually I was. Were you?
No, I shouldn't be surprised either. I mean, we've been watching a genocide take place and continue to happen right before our eyes every day in Gaza. And we see Lebanese children being slaughtered regularly on a regular basis too. So we really shouldn't be surprised. But some of the things, including what you've just mentioned, are just they still shock us despite everything. And it's not just in my part of the world. I'm in Moscow along with you all day today. I've been speaking to Russians. I've been on show after show, meeting people, many of them mutual friends, and many are big fans of yours. Literally, George, literally, I'm not exaggerating, literally everyone has been saying that we, meaning Russians, Iranians, Orthodox Christians, Muslims, we are on one side, and these anti God, anti morality, anti human elites in the United States are on the other side. We are on the right side of history, where we support morality, we support religion, Christian and Muslim. We support children. We oppose all these crimes that are being carried out by these people, and they stand on the other side. They are the enemies of their own people, and they're our enemies. It's been so interesting today, in particular, how everyone has been stressing that we are all on the same side, Russians and Iranians. We're all standing against this monstrous entity, this class of corrupt billionaires and powerful men mostly. And that woman and her daughter, they reflect something much bigger and darker. Most of the Epstein files are still undisclosed, and those that have been released are mostly redacted. It's obvious that what is being hidden from us is far worse than those bits and pieces that we now see. And people are still going through these 3 million files and finding new bits and pieces of horrific information. But it is quite interesting. It is quite fascinating how my Russian friends who are not connected with one another, I meet them separately, and they're all saying more or less the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all proof that Satan is present in the world, that evil stalks the land and is present in the world, and sometimes on top in the world, and would appear to be on top in these elites that you talk about. Prince William of the Royal House of Britain was today in the presence of the very Arabian prince who wrote to Jeffrey Epstein thanking him for the torture video. I'm not making that up, and I don't want to embarrass you or anyone else by naming any more of these rat-like figures, but they don't only exist in the West, do they? They have plenty of accomplices of Satan everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. And the closer they are to the regime in Washington, the more names you see from those entities. The Emirates is the closest ally of the Israeli regime, and both of these uh, messages that you were quoting, whether that woman diplomat or that head of the Dubai ports or whatever that organization is called, they're both from the Emirates. The woman offering her sister, this man showing great pleasure in the torture video. It's obvious that such a regime in the United Arab Emirates should be a close ally of the Israeli regime. It should be an ally of Netanyahu. It should be supporting the genocide in Gaza. That's exactly uh, what we're seeing in these messages to Epstein. That they have no morality, they have no shame, and I have no doubt that these two are the only figures in the Emirates or in the Persian Gulf region either.
Professor, this watch I'm showing you now was given to me by the late and great Sheikh Zayed, the former ruler of the UAE, the man who built the UAE, whose grave I attended quite recently. He built something quite special and quite authentic, but not to put too fine a point on it, it's all gone awry since he died. That's the problem with family dictatorships, isn't it?
Oh yes, and it's not just his; it's Qatar. All of these regimes are playing extraordinarily destructive roles across our region and beyond. The drug trade from in Afghanistan goes right through the Emirates. The gold that is taken from illegal uh, mining across Africa, it all goes through the Emirates. In Qatar, ISIS, the home of ISIS and the funding of ISIS and Al Qaeda, it all comes from gas money. That oil and gas money from family despots who, instead of building their own countries, instead of building Africa, instead of building Asia, instead of building Arab countries, impoverished countries, instead of supporting the Palestinian people, instead of strengthening Egypt and neighboring countries of the Israeli regime so that they can stand up to this disgraceful racist regime, they spend it on destroying country after country by expanding corruption, by expanding extremism, cooperating with Western intelligence agencies. That's all they seem to be able to do. And paying billions of dollars to the Trump family and his allies. That's all they can do. They've done nothing. I mean, even Qatar, some people praise Qatar for the World Cup. Some say that the money that they spent was above tens of billions of dollars. They created a huge metro that's empty. They built all these stadiums that are no longer used. They built so many hotels, and they spent billions on a few football games. They could have built countries. They could have changed the situation in across Africa with that sort of money, but they refuse to do so. Instead, they pay Trump's family and his allies money so that they can keep their regimes afloat. They pretend to be supporters of the Palestinian. The Emirates doesn't even pretend, but Qatar pretends that they're supporters of the Palestinian people, but they've never given a single bullet to the resistance. They've never made any sacrifices. If they did, they'd be sanctioned, just like Erdogan and others. And again, the last time I was on your show, George, and I raised this to you last night. I mentioned names, which I won't hear, but you are an exile, and you no longer can go back to the UK. There are people in the UK who pretend to be supporters of the Palestinian people, who supported the dirty war in Syria, who have lots of funding from the Persian Gulf. Are they exiled? Are they in trouble? No, because they are working in close coordination with the regime in London. there's no doubt that the money that Qatar pays, the money that all these dictatorships in our region pay, these Western dictatorships pay, it's done in full coordination with Western governments and intelligence agencies.